Cecil. Lorelei, little pest.
It's not all hot air. Ah, that explains what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, yeah, just doing some research. Chat GPT is a great research tool for that kind of thing. I was shocked. I had to double check it. I couldn't believe
Mm.
they use that much oxygen, but because they breathe differently than we do, they do actually use pretty much all the oxygen they get in their lungs. So
Yeah. Oh, Anne Marie, you're gonna love this. So I found out that I weigh about 60 times what Manda weighs.
But
But I
you
but
both
I weigh about 150 times what Lucy weighs.
interesting. Now,
But
now we can make a system of equations.
yeah, I use up about the same amount of oxygen as Manda, despite weighing 60 times what he weighs.
Oh,
So these guys are heavy breathers.
yeah. Would be
I thought snow.
interesting if there's some biochemistry book which can explain, or if they already completely know how all these energy cycle with oxygen works at their body.
Yeah, I always thought the heaviest breather would be Snowball when he's a pink bird.
Mm, fun
that was
fact.
pretty shocking how much oxygen they use. Although I knew I thought maybe they'd use double, or in each breath what we do, but it's far beyond that. So, and the nice thing about Chat GPT is it does all the work for you. It says, okay, this is how much per gram a bird uses, the average bird, and then it goes through all the calculations and shows you exactly all the work all the way down to where this is how much they're using in a day. And I just about fell over. But all the text I've read says it's important to get fresh air, to get fresh air to them every day. Hard to do here in the desert. But you'd have to have a virtual garden house to have the plants replace it. Do the calculations on a plant, and a plant that's what 3 feet tall with 14 leaves that average 6 inches in length and 4 inches in diameter produces about 516 milliliters of oxygen a day.
And they only produce oxygen in the day, they don't produce it at night.
No, and they also, some plants, and you have to be careful here, some plants actually expire something that is not safe for birds at night. So um, nobody said that on the web that I could see, but Chat GPT pointed that out. And so when you ask it what plants are safe, it lists plants that don't expire at night, something that is dangerous for the birds too.
Not only
Nobody mentioned.
ChatGPT pointed that out.
That's the only one I saw that mentioned it. I've
I
I've gone to a
mentioned
lot
it
of.
independently
Oh,
from ChatGPT to you.
hmm.
Mhm. So, oh, Calvin Thurston just became a member. So thanks for that, Calvin. And
Oh,
hi.
thank you.
So Calvin is
There
a
we go.
Cosy guardian. So you can tell Cosy that she has a new phone.
Yeah, that's great.
She'll like that.
So thanks for
Thank you,
joining,
Calvin.
Calvin. Let's see, have we already greeted Jocelyn Trickle? She is also here. I guess Cinnamon is maybe watching.
Hello, Jocelyn. Nice to see you.
Yeah, how's the Jocelyn? How's the poop looking today? It was it was it wasn't as bad as it's been, but there was a little bit of a problem with it. So
Yep, gotta check the
sometimes,
poop. It's very important.
Sea salt. Sea salt.
And Falcon Sue is here, so hello, Falcon Sue. She says, Happy Monday.
Hey, Falcon Zoo. Excuse me if I cough. I'm going to try to block my coughing as much as possible, but I'm still coughing, so.
We'll probably set one of the birds off barking if you cough too much.
Yeah, I think that's what he was doing yesterday. He was doing a little barking. Couldn't tell if it was an imitation. I don't think it was an imitation of a cough, but he was woof, 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 woof. So
Yeah,
could have been one or the other.
maybe he just thought it was funny.
He's a critter. He's a character. And one of the
Oh,
things about being on. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Jocelyn says the poop is still a little watery.
Just send me another picture so I can look at it then. And compare the two pictures, the one from yesterday and the one from today. Yes, we people who have birds take pictures of poop. Deal with it.
Mm-hmm. And then we discuss about it.
What are you guys doing? Now, you're not going to do that on my chest.
But, you know,
No.
checking their poop is the best way to check their health, apart from weighing them.
Yeah.
Or as well
The
as
two,
weighing them.
yeah, the two together are the best indicators. They still have to look to make sure they don't have growths on their bodies, they don't have impacted feathers and things like that. But the two most important things are the poopology and the weights.
And how much should a cockatoo weigh? Am I right in thinking that Lucy is about 600 grams, for example?
Lucy's, excuse me, she's always been underweight at about 425 grams.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So she weighs about the same as Cos then?
Yep. The average, they can vary, but and a lot of that has to do with how well they were fed when they were young. But the average umbrella 600, somewhere in that range. It can be as much as 700 down to 500, but 600 is about average. Yeah, I was totally shocked when I went to Chat GPT and I was trying to figure out, because we're talking about air quality. I just wanted to know about how much oxygen these guys suck in a day. And Mander sucks in about as much as I do. And look how much smaller than me he is, but he actually is using as much oxygen. And I looked at the figures and tried to double check everything, but Chat GPT doesn't just give you an answer; it does the calculations, and shows it all to you. And we'll leave it to our mathematician Amy to go through it and double check it.
Mm. Well, I worked out that I weigh about 60 times what Manda weighs.
I already
But
suggested to make a set of equations. You guys. Do they want
well,
me to misuse as a calculator?
I may have to send you a picture of the screen, because when you copy from Chat GPT and you paste something like um, a mathematical breakdown, it doesn't look quite as good. You see a lot of the background things that you don't, where it does the calculations that you don't need to see. So, but Cecil, are you having fun? Is this Cecil hypnosis here? one of the things that got me thinking about, two things: air quality and the amount of oxygen in the air. Is we're here in the desert, and we've been having day after day of poor air and heat. So you can't actually open the windows and blow air through here. You could do it when it's hot, but you can't do it when there's too much pollution in the air. So, and the pollution here is mostly dust in the air, so it's mostly the 10 parts per million. We'll get into that, but it's not as much of the 2.5. In other words, if you're breathing smoke from a fire, you're getting these small particles that you can't get out of your lungs. And even though birds, the way they breathe, the air tends to flow through them all the way, unlike us, where it stagnates. Uh, that stuff will stick to the linings of their lungs. So I've been working for a while now trying to figure out the best way to keep the oxygen levels up in here. And adding more plants is one way, of course, but the plants don't produce that much oxygen. A 2-foot plant with 14 leaves is going to give you, that are 6x4 leaves, are going to give you about 516 milliliters of oxygen, so that's a lot less than you need to breathe in like 15 minutes. But it helps, and the right plants help, but we'll get into all that, won't we? Now, why are you sitting here trying to plan? You're planning something, aren't you? Who, me? Who, I would never plan to do something. No, not me. Yeah, why are you hovering
Howling
looking?
Thurston wonders how many Bobaloos he weighs.
Babaloo at his last weight was right around 700 grams. So
Okay. They're not as much as a saram, but a bit more than an umbrella.
Mm.
Although the umbrellas seem to have quite a range, because Lorelei is pretty chunky, but yeah, then you've got Cosy and Lucy who are tiny. So I don't know.
Cecil, if your intent is to beat my Bluetooth ear device, that's not why you're not going to sit up there. If you want to whack me in the head, that's fine, but not the Bluetooth ear device. No. And you are a little minx. Why don't you get? I don't mind having you in my lap. I just don't want you facing towards KK. She's got a thing about she wants to do something to KK. I'm not sure what. Okay, now it's Cecil hypnosis.
It's like a metronome's back and forth, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
You having fun? Are you? He just needs to learn to say you are getting very, very sleepy. I wouldn't use the word very except in hypnosis, right? Mm-hmm. Cecil, you little monster. You're such a monster. You're cute, but you're a monster. A good monster. Yes, you are. I guess we can start on the topic. I'm going to have to open my notes so I don't, being a little under the weather here.
Yep, I think we greeted everybody in chat. So everyone else who's watching, also, hello, good to see you. Hope you have all found a comfy place so we can listen to the wisdom of Dawn.
And as usual, if anyone has any questions, then pop them in the chat and we will ask Dawn.
Yeah, because we're out here in the desert, we don't get that much fresh air because Well, what I read is that in this particular valley, because they dug up a lot of places and put homes in, it created this dust pattern that we get. So if it's terribly dry for a period of time, stop, and the wind kicks up, which it tends to do. Get down here. I can't deal with it. Stop it, little monster. You little monster. No, I'm not going to let you up on my shoulders right now because I can't think with you whacking me in the head. Usually I can, but not today. Monster, monster. So with the heat we've been having, I can only open the windows early in the morning. And now I can't open them that early because the second I wake up these guys, if I don't get Romeo his medicine right away, and the same with Jasmine and right now Snowball, then there's going to be some feather plucking. So that means I have to kind of balance getting up as early as I can without destroying their schedule. And then I put a big exhaust fan in that window, sucking in air. And then back in the room where I spend my time at night, after 10 usually, I put up a big exhaust fan there and it blows the air out. And then I have other fans in the house that help to move the air through the house so that in an hour I can pretty much empty the air, about half the air out of the house. But so I did a lot of research on this to try to look into the best way to try to get them the quality of air they need and the oxygen they need. And I was shocked to find out that they use a lot of oxygen, a lot more than mammals do. So I have read in many books how important it is to get fresh air, but they never exactly explain why. Well, looking and researching it and seeing how much air they use, which is close to what we do for a Moluccan, like salamander, almost exactly the same amount as an adult who weighs about 145 pounds would use, adult human. So it's critical that they get the oxygen brought into the house. How do you do that when you have bad air quality? So I'm constantly checking that to see what the air quality is. So you can get an air quality tester, and I've found that they don't last terribly long. Um, they usually have an embedded fan, unless you're going to buy a commercial air tester that's going to cost you $400 or $500. You pay $100 for an air tester, and you can throw it out 2 months later. So um, quite often there will be testing centers around where you live, and the EPA has an app. If you just put in EPA air quality and you look for the app, you'll find it. And they have stations in pretty much every city. I mean, even here they have like 4 stations here. So, and you can get the quality from there, and you can know whether it's okay to open the windows. You don't want to open the windows when it says air unsafe for sensitive people. So, which would mean parrots, because they're sensitive people. Aren't you a sensitive person? Hmm?
Mm. Oh, they're very sensitive people.
Now, originally I had another app I was using, which was an air quality app, but I figured out that it had the old capitalist flair to it. What they were doing was they were trying to make it look like your air quality was worse than it actually was, in order for you to buy one of their $500 air testing devices and put it on your home. And they were way off compared to what the EPA testing was. And what's funny is they were using some of the same base stations, but giving you different data. So, as they say, don't trust the capitalists because they're out to make money on you, not to tell you the truth. So, but that app seems to be pretty good. I also have on my phone, I have a air quality that I can. You have a phone just by looking under your weather apps. You can usually drill down to the AQI, which is the air quality index. And in a good app, it's going to show you where the stations are, so you can see how close it is to your home. We have one a mile from here, so when the air quality is above 50, you don't actually want the windows open. which around here means that sometimes it might be 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and I still have to open the windows to get air in here. And then trust the air conditioning. You do that in the morning, you can drop. Yeah, we get 95 in the morning here. So if you do that in the morning before the sun's beating down on the top of the house, you have the air conditioning can usually handle it. Now there's two main types of air pollution. And you're going to see these listed. One is the PM 2.5, and the other is the PM 10. Okay, so the 2.5 is what's most dangerous. It's what's going to really cause lung problems for you and your birds. So that's the number one thing you want to look at. Although it's hard to breathe when there's dust in your face, which the PM 10 is basically it's 10 microns and above. So while that won't settle in your lungs, it will make it a little hard to breathe. So then they average those out and they'll give you an AQI. If the PM 2.5s are high and the PM 10s are low, they'll still show you a high number because they don't want you breathing those tiny particles. And HEPA filters can take up to 0.3 micron. So they can get those nasty little small particles out of the air, which make it difficult for these guys to breathe. The old canary in the coal mine kind of thing. Of course, there's other things like you have to be careful not to have chemicals, and you're going to whack my ear again. You can't do that. No whacking my ear, you little monster. Come here. Come here. Sit here. You whack my ear, I can't concentrate. Little monster. See, you made me lose my notes too. Now I got to go back and find them. But anyway, the HEPA filters will get rid of these contaminants in the air. Around cockatoos, though, they clog fast. So if you've got a couple of cockatoos in a room and you have one HEPA filter in there, you're going to be blowing out that carbon filter from there 3 or 4 times a week. I should say 2 or 3 times a week, because they'll go from black to white with just a couple of cockatoos. Try 12. You're blowing them out every day, right? Everybody else, well, at least she's preening. Sugar, what are you doing? There's that sugar eye.
Everybody is sleepy today, apart from Ethel.
KK is just nesting. He's into the big nesting thing right now.
That's cute.
Now, the other thing that the HEPA filters, I have a couple. I'm using these other filters I put together using fans here, and that gets more dust out of the air. But if there were a fire or something in the area, then I'd be putting the HEPA filters out here to get the dust out of the air down to that degree, because you don't want any of these guys breathing any kind of smoke that, your house isn't perfectly sealed. So somewhere along the line, you're going to be getting smoke in if there's a fire around you. All right, Cecil? Cecil Bird? Another issue too is kitchen. When you're cooking in the kitchen, you have to be careful not to get that hot oil, or get oil so hot that it starts to smoke. You want to keep it below the temperature where it starts to get heavily into the air because it will definitely upset the respiratory system of parrots. People will do something like cook fajitas, which often is terribly hot oil, and the oil is bad. But if you do it in a Teflon pan, you might as well just take a gun and shoot your birds, because I've read so many people who have done something like that and their birds died. There's that one family I heard about who they weren't using Teflon pans. They threw all that stuff in the closet, and they were using stainless steel. And they had people over who say, "Oh, we'll surprise these guys and make them breakfast," but they didn't know how to cook on stainless steel, and they found the Teflon pans, so they surprised them all right. Every bird in the house was dead.
Oh my God. That's awful.
I know.
Oh, what a tragedy.
And you can cook on stainless steel. I mean, there's no reason you have to use Teflon, but the people unfortunately they've been taught that they have to use the easiest thing. You just have to learn how to cook on stainless steel. You can pretty much do anything on stainless.
Cast iron is
um,
another great option,
and there's one now where
particularly for Mexican food.
yeah, there's another one that there's a ceramic coating that's safe. There you have to make sure it's the PTFE free, the Teflon free, and then there's one that it looks rust colored, and it's a titanium based. It has no PTFE, and that's another safe thing you can cook with. You can cook with the professional stuff too, the copper clad. If you've got the money to buy that kind of cookware, the copper is the best thing to cook on. And what they do is they anneal nickel, and it's almost like a steel-like surface they put on it, but it's copper, on top of the copper, and it has to be tinned every year. But that's what professional cooks use. I just use the stainless steel.
And talking about, you also have to be aware of things like hair dryers and curling tongs and stuff, because they can also contain Teflon, and things like air fryers and various appliances. You have to check all of
Yeah,
those.
anything you're going to buy, you have to check that out to make sure it doesn't have it. And then I would suggest, no matter what you find, unless the manufacturer says Teflon free on it, just to be sure, you can call the manufacturer, and I've been on the phone talking to engineers, and they'll tell me, no, we don't use any Teflon in it. So just be sure, because it only takes one mistake. And anything that gets that hot, like an air fryer, they get hot enough to definitely cause that Teflon to get into the air, and it's toxic.
And what
Hey
about
guys.
self-cleaning oven?
Yeah, you can't use the self-cleaning feature. It's time to learn to use baking soda, a little bit of water, and scrub. Exercise those muscles. What are you doing?
Because the
Can't
self-cleaning
use
basically cleans the oven by setting itself on fire, I think.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, it gets way too hot, and then most ovens come with a disclaimer about that. You don't use these features if you have parrots. They do now. They didn't used to. So yeah, what gets into the air around these guys is important. It's important. You want to bite me? Go ahead. All right. Now, plants are great to bring into your environment to get oxygen, but there are other issues too. A plant will exude gases at night as well, so you have to be careful. You get plants that don't do that too. So it isn't just whether the bird gets a hold of the plant and eats it. You can usually put like wire around a plant to keep them out, that kind of thing. But when it comes to whether or not they produce that gas, I got Chat GPT because I've seen huge lists of plants that are safe. But every time I would try one of these plants that was listed on a website as safe, and ChatGPT would come back and say no, because it exudes this particular gas at night, it's not safe. So it listed the spider plant, the areca palm, the Boston fern, aloe vera, and the bamboo palm as the safest plants and the ones that produce the most oxygen. So
And spider plants are really easy to propagate, so you just buy one and then you'll soon have a million.
that's probably why I couldn't find any spider plants at the local Home Depot. It didn't have any. And their plant section was all indoor plants. What are you going to plant in the desert, right? I mean, they didn't have any cactus there. And actually, cactus don't grow in this where I live, this area, terribly well. They don't grow in clay soils that well. So yeah, there weren't a lot of choices actually as far as plants. I'll have to check a nursery out and see if I can get some spider plant, because I would like to do just exactly that. Just keep propagating them and get more. Another problem here is because it is so hot, these plants need lighting. So you have to get the right kind of lighting for them. And grow lights are available now that are LED, so they last forever, close to. They'll outlast me. So I got a couple of plants and I put them over there and put a grow light on top of them. And now they look like the two plants look like they're getting married, because they're both leaning into the light. So I had to order another one. You can get a decent grow light for about $20. But when I say decent, I mean you're going to have it between 12 and 18 inches above the plant. So I know. I hear you talking down there. Mm. Okay, okay.
We
Okay,
have
the
a
bird.
question. We have a question from Eve Watts. So hello, Eve Watts, who wants to know about aerosols. So like sunscreen, deodorant, bug spray, and also spray cooking oil.
Just don't use anything that's spray. You don't want anything that's aerosol that gets into the air. um, and they're
I think,
getting you on the cooking oil. Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say the cooking oil is usually not aerosol, but still don't spray it around your beds. Put them in the other
Yeah.
room.
Usually it isn't aerosol, but there is a side to that. Why are you wasting your money on paying a huge amount of money for a little bit of oil in a can that sprays on? Well, you can just take a brush, a cooking brush, drop a little oil on the pan, and then spread it around with the brush. What, you don't want to wash the brush? You don't need the spray oils; they're not necessary. Um, and I don't know any professional cooks that use them at all. They may do it on TV because they know that people are like, "What? You mean I actually have to move the oil around myself?" But, basically the same kind of a brush you use for basting, just to move the oil around the pan. No, don't use anything that's spray. Now, if you've got a room in the house now here you have to be careful too, because if you spray something in one room, it can get to another. Because you do have, if you have, especially, well, that's only true if you have an air conditioning system, but if you have a central air like everybody in the desert has, when you spray in one room, it's going to end up in other rooms too, because the air is going to get moved around. So best to avoid anything spray. If you need to clean something like the bathroom, you use wipes. And again, that stuff isn't good for birds. Make sure you close the door when you do it. And if you can use vinegar to clean, although vinegar is an irritant, so you have to be careful. It disperses fairly well. Anytime you use anything that's commercial and it says on it kills 99.9% of the germs, anything like that, you want to make sure that room is sealed up while you're working with it. It will dissipate. If it's not aerosol, it will dissipate fairly quickly and it won't bother them. If you have the
And
windows open, it's better.
also most germs in your bathroom and kitchen can still be killed by a bit of dish soap and scrubbing.
Yes, that's right. Remember, they said when we had to get rid of the the coronavirus on your hands, you just wash your hands with soap for 20 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So that does work.
But it's a good point about the air conditioning, because me and Anne Marie are just like, what is central air? We are European, we do not understand. But in
Central
America,
air, you get
it's a thing that people have.
well, especially in hot areas like this. What it does is it just pushes cold air to all the different rooms in the house, and then there's one intake somewhere in the house that sucks the air in. The intake in this house is just across from the kitchen. Okay, so you won't find me in the summer cooking anything with oil. I'm going to be using my pressure cooker, or if I do use oil, it's going to be less than 200 degrees in the pan. And how do I know it's less than 200 degrees? Cecil, can you tell him? No, you're going to move. As soon as I go to switch the camera, he moves. It's just the way he is. Yeah, the trick to know what the temperature is these little handheld. They usually have a laser on them too. Thermometers that you can just point at your pan and pull the trigger. I use it when if I have to give them some kind of food. If for some reason I have to give a bird KT exact, I know exactly what temperatures I'm working with because I have the handheld thermometer. They're about $20, $25. I use a Temprol, but there's a lot of different brands out there, and it's like just like shooting a laser beam at something, and it tells you what the temperature is at the spot where the light hits. Because when you put oil in a pan and you turn that burner on, it can get up to 300, 400 degrees fast, and you need to know what the temperature is. And if you're using electric, you got to make sure because it'll just keep heating after you turn the coil off. So you heat it up slowly when you're using a pan. But again, you have this central air intake. And I can tell you a story about that. It's a funny one, but and it'll make clear what the problem with central air conditioners. But this rich part of San Diego, they have all these big mansions, and I was supplying plumbing to these mansions at the time at the company I was working for. And one of the plumbers told me that there were 5 bathrooms in the house, and they were all these really ritzy bathrooms. But once a day, the whole house had this horrible smell all the way throughout the house. And they tried to figure out, they brought the air conditioning guy out, and he had put the air intake right near the bathroom that the man was using in the morning, and he had some problems. So, so wherever that air intake is, you got to be careful. And then of course it circulates, like I say, it circulates through the entire house. And it's the same thing with, like, I have this in the kitchen, so I have to be careful what I cook and how I cook. Pressure cookers are great because you can cook anything in there. If you want to have a roast, you can cook it in there. You will have to glaze the outside of it first before you put it in there. Well, you don't have to, but it doesn't turn out so well. So again, you have to watch the temperature of the pan, and you got to do it slow instead of quickly glazing, that kind of thing. But you can cook pretty much anything. I won't say anything, but most of the food anyone would eat inside of a pressure cooker. Are you guys having fun up here? Hmm? Okay. Lorelai, you eating my pocket? Is that what you're doing?
Sounds about right.
So if you're using the windows are open, you're just circulating your air from the outside. The issue is knowing whether or not there's pollution in the air, and you can do that through app from the EPA, or your weather app may actually list it. The EPA is going to be better because it's going to show you the stations. You'll know how close they are to your house, or you can buy your own device. But don't go for one of the cheap ones because you'll be throwing it out. The little fans inside die is what happens. They have a little fan in there, and I don't know, but they must go cheap side on those fans because they don't last very long. And a lot of warnings on them too. Oh, don't bump it, don't drop it. Yeah, okay, it's that sensitive. you're better off using the EPA information.
And there's a
What are you
question
doing?
about microwaves as too. Now, I think microwaves are fine, but can you confirm that, Don?
Well, the way as long as they haven't been damaged, and there's a basic cage in there that keeps the energy from the microwave not coming out. So if you put a meter up to a microwave, you can get microwave meters, right?
You can also
Actually, if
put your
you're
phone in the microwave and try and ring it, and if it rings, then you know your microwave's busted.
yeah, I've heard that trick. I haven't tried it, but yeah.
Obviously, don't turn the microwave on, but
Yeah, that's the thing. When you tell people like that, obviously there are people who would. There's like that one lady I read about who put her poodle in there to try to dry it off after it. Oh,
oh my God.
yeah, people do strange things, but that is one way, sure. The meters aren't terribly expensive to check for microwave emissions, and as a amateur radio guy, which I don't do much of, but we studied the emissions on the radio frequencies, and just make you guys laugh a little bit. I mean, we studied the way they use the cage inside of a microwave and why they're safe, but they say that you should not get in front of a microwave beam, and certainly not if it's 5 watts or more. And it lists all these potential dangers with it. They don't call it a microwave beam though; they call it a 10-meter frequency. So what's a cell phone? A 10-meter frequency. What's a microwave? A 10-meter frequency. Yeah, if you get somebody shooting 100 megawatts at microwave frequency, you're just going to do a little bit of a dance, and then it's going to be set on fire. The microwaves are okay. In fact, they're probably one of the safest ways to cook food.
They can cook food and they can also cook you if they're damaged.
If they're damaged, they can, yes. So you should check them out regularly. And the trick with the phone, as long as you remember, you don't leave your phone in there. It works.
Yeah. And make sure that the last time you used the microwave, you didn't open it halfway through a cycle so it doesn't start automatically. Because I had a friend that did that once.
Oh, geez, yeah.
I mean, we got the phone out before it was damaged, but that was like, oh.
Yeah, that's spooky. I haven't seen a microwave that does that. All the ones I've ever dealt with, they don't start up unless you press the start button. And the one I have right now, if you press the start button and you haven't opened the door and closed it, it won't start.
Or maybe it's a UK thing, because all the microwaves that I've had, if you set the timer and then you open it halfway through, then when you shut the door again, it starts automatically.
No, not the ones I've had here, and the one I have right now won't do that. Every time you open the door and close it, you have to hit the start button again. It will retain the time that's left, but it won't start up automatically.
Well, we have a couple more people to greet. We have Jem and Jamie, and we have Lisa Banerjee. So hello to both of you.
Hello.
As you can probably tell, we're talking about air quality. So if you have any questions about how to get good air for your birds, then drop them in the chat and we'll ask Don.
Yeah, and if you are in a store thinking about buying a plant and you have access to the web, you can ask ChatGPT, is this plant safe for parrots? And it will tell you. You can ask it for a list too, a list of safe plants. Don't trust the lists that are on the web, unfortunately, because they don't take into account what kind of gas the plants expire at night. So there are lists that have a long list of things that are safe, but if you start asking ChatGPT, it will tell you, no, this it produces this gas at night. It lists what the plants do at night too, which nobody. I wasn't taking that into account either. Um, that's perhaps more important than whether the plant is poisonous when it's eaten, because you can put wire around the plant, right? You can do things to make sure the bird can't, like you do with your electric cords and that kind of stuff. You can protect against that, but you can't do anything about those gases coming out at night. So, what are you doing down there? How are you? How are you doing now, KK? KK the bird. K bird. KK bird.
And what about things that make your home smell nice? So essential oils and those wax melty things and room sprays and that kind of thing.
Those look really great when you throw them in the trash, and it might make the trash much more, for the trash man, not so disgusting, but they shouldn't be used in your home. If you want to make the house smell okay, the only thing I can suggest is um, using cinnamon sticks. Cinnamon sticks, cinnamon sticks. That'll make your house smell nice. You can use, if there's no Teflon in them, you can use these little potpourri burners and throw cinnamon sticks and water in there. The cinnamon doesn't affect them, so cinnamon is a tree bark anyway.
And a sweet little
Just-
bird.
Yeah,
Yes, and a sweet bird too.
who weighs about 100 grams apparently. So he's a little guy.
Don't buy your cinnamon sticks at the local store because they're too expensive. You can get them through Amazon. They're not cheap, but you can buy a 5-pound bag of cinnamon sticks for $30, something like that. I haven't checked in a while. Bob likes cinnamon sticks, but lately he started throwing them on the bottom of his cage without using them. I was watching him, so he's not getting any cinnamon sticks. I use them to make the house smell better occasionally. Yeah, all the scents. Excuse me. All the scents and even body scents. I don't know how many people who are potential volunteers chose not to volunteer because I told them no colognes, no perfumes, no. And some people just can't go out without spraying stink on themselves. And unfortunately, it's not good for these guys.
Yeah, if you have to wear perfume, then spray it once you get to the car and not inside. And vent out your car before you take the bird to the vet in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long cultural practice that's been going on for thousands of years. It's amazing that we hate how we smell, but that's really what it comes down to. I don't like the way I smell. I got to smell different. The birds don't need that kind of stuff, though. And their lungs
there's
have a
another
problem. Go ahead.
there's another great question from E. Schwartz as well, which is to do with humidity. So how do birds respond to the different humidity? And I guess what is the best humidity for a bird?
Depends on where they're from. I mean, the tritons don't require as much, or the greater sulfurs don't require as much humidity. But most of the umbrellas would be happier in a 80% humidity environment. Well, I can't provide that. I'm not sure I would be good anyway because of the bacteria and stuff that would form. So
If you
if
have
you
a
can keep
tropical greenhouse.
yeah, if you can keep the home at 45% humidity, it's probably your best bet. I have a commercial humidifier that keeps their main room at roughly between 40 and 45% humidity all the time. But it looks like a water fountain in reverse. And you want to get the ones that are operated, they're ultrasonic and they don't use heat. Not only will they last longer, you don't really want to heat up the environment. Now, if you were living in Alaska, you might want one of the humidifiers that heats up, but um, this thing in the middle of summer will eat up about 5 gallons of water a day just to keep the humidity up. But shoot for around 45% humidity. Much more than that, you're going to get too much bacteria growth. Much less than that, you're going to get nosebleeds for yourself, and the birds will have a little trouble. I know that if it gets too low for Pippa, she starts sneezing all the time. Pippa can't handle it. She's a Triton, but she, of course, that's an island, so it's got more humidity than a little tiny island off the coast of um, Australia. But you still digging down there? They seem to be okay. Their nares look all right. They don't have any issues at 45% humidity. So, yeah, humidity. That's a good question, because when I first got here, Pippa was he was just sneezing all the time and couldn't stop sneezing. And I took her in, got blood work done and all this. And, just finally the doc said, we don't have much humidity here. And this is not an unusual situation. We get a lot of birds that have trouble breathing because of the low humidity. And then he said, good luck trying to find a humidifier that can fix that. Well, I found one the next day online. It's like $250, but it does the job. It's been working for over a year, knock on wood, but you guys.
Look at those lovebirds.
Yeah, humidity is critical. If your humidity is too high, you can have the potential for disease. If it's too low, then you have lung problems in these guys. So you can tell when the humidity is too low. Just put something on the wall that's black, like just a black sheet of paper or something. And in a day or two with cockatoos, it'll start to turn white because the dust will be in the air. So to get that dust out of the air, which bothers them too, you have to get the humidity up to at least 40%. 45 is better, but at least 40. And that gets the dust. It makes it, the humidity attaches to the dust and the dust drops to the floor. Then remember to vacuum. Because if you don't vacuum regularly, every time you walk through the room, you're stirring up dust. Although I've known a couple of people who, if they didn't see it, they wouldn't believe it. I don't think they believed it in air, actually, because they never opened the doors to their house or the windows. What are you doing? You too.
Yeah, I can't stand that. I open my windows every day.
My grandmother, they lived in the high desert in San Diego, a place called Tierra del Sol, land of the sun, another hot place. We used to, got cold in the winter, but so we'd go there for Christmas, and my grandmother just believed in leaving all the windows open, so you'd be under like 15 blankets with your nose just poked out as a kid. And fresh air, she would always say. And it was up in the mountains, so it was always fresh air. They didn't have any pollutant problems or anything like that. And in the morning, you get up
German roots.
Huh?
Are this your German roots? Because we also believe in open windows.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
She was
Germans and British people.
well, her last name was Churchill, so, and yeah, related to Winston. In fact, I not didn't usually mention that, but so I would get out of those blankets in the morning and run into the living room where they had a stove. They had a wood stove, and that's how they heated up the place. And hi there, big boy. And just getting a just dash through this freezing cold air. I didn't know it at the time, but I have rainouts, so just which means that if it's less than 70 degrees Fahrenheit, less than 21.5 Celsius, my fingers turn white, and they they don't get the circulation, so I just rush in there and immediately put my hands next to that stove in the morning. But we had the fresh air, that's for sure, all the time. You did not want to close a window. Mm-mm. Nope. She would hunt you down. How dare you close a window in my house?
That's Cecil. Cutie pie.
And it's funny, I didn't know until recently that my grandmother on that side was her last name was Churchill. Nobody told me that. They told me I was related to Winston Churchill, but not that my grandmother was actually a Churchill. What are you doing? My Uncle Church was an interesting guy. He liked reading Omar Khayyam. He had everything that Omar Khayyam ever wrote, and he read it in the original Persian. He learned written Persian so that he could read Omar Khayyam in the original.
That's
That was my
dedication.
uncle. That was my Uncle Church. That's what we called him anyway. Uncle Church. Ah. Yeah, we had a lot of strange people in my families. You can call it dedication, or I'm not sure what you should call it. Fixation, maybe. I've read Omar Khayyam too, but just the Fitzgerald translations. So, well, folks, it's about that time. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Eleanor, for your assistance. Don't forget, we do have merchandise, and you can go around wearing a peach shirt, or you can have a I don't know what would be the best thing of Lorelei that you have.
Something
Because
with a zipper.
Lorelei, something with a zipper, yeah, for sure. Something that is minx like. She's a minx, aren't you? Bother. Coffee cups with Cecil on them. Wake up to Cecil in the morning. We have a new Patreon member, and if you're on here, I'd like to say thank you for joining up on Patreon. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.